Welcome to the Ageless Traveler, the #1 resource for active 60-plus travelers. Discover the most exciting destinations, the deepest discounts, and make new like-minded friends. Did you know that the NIH recently reported that travel increases your longevity? This episode of the Ageless Traveler is brought to you by Cruises.it, the most comprehensive ocean and river cruise site to book all your cruising needs. Receive the deepest discounts and perks beyond what is offered by the cruise lines themselves. Once you book, you are alerted if your cruise price drops, so you never pay a penny more than the lowest possible price. Now here's Adrienne Berg, host of the Ageless Traveler.
Hello. This is Adrienne Berg, and this is the Ageless Traveler. And today we have a very special show because what we're talking about today is an answer to a question asked of me by one of our listeners. And the question was, are there any classes to write a travel memoir? And the answer is yes, there are. There's Gotham, there's a few others, and you'll see that in the show notes. But I just so happen to be planning to do an episode on how to write a travel memoir and give you some hints and tips. Now, I have a travel memoir, Champagne Before Breakfast. Some of you may know that if you go ballooning, you usually do that at sunrise or sunset. And there's also champagne, and if it's sunrise, you bet, Champagne Before Breakfast, which is the name of that book. And so I want to give you and walk you through the 9 steps. And very quickly, this is something that you can do. Believe me, all you have to do is think about these 9 elements of travel memoir and start to write. Now, for example, we just had Cruises.it introduce this show. And my mind immediately went to a memory of travel. A few years ago, I was speaking in Texas. I was slated to be in Houston, Texas. I happened to have been in the Aleutian Islands. Dutch Harbor is a place that you get to by instrument flying. And I went even further into Nikolsky. That's one of those places where you can see Russia from here. And I had to get back. That means Nikolsky to Dutch Harbor to Anchorage to Houston. There was no way to get back except by taking a boat. And I ended up 14 hours in the freezing cold in a small boat in the Bering Sea. And I will tell you that this memoir feels to me like a dream. Did it happen? Not so sure, but I am told that it did. I went through rookeries, saw seals and walruses and sea lions, heard noises from the sea that I had never heard before, saw stars I had never seen before, and eventually, exhausted after 14 hours, got back to Dutch Harbor and was able to instrument fly back to Alaska and then made it to the speech in Houston. To me, this was an incredible memory, something I could write about over and over again. So it doesn't have to be your favorite restaurant in Paris. Perhaps your memoir should not be that. So let's start with step 1. What is a travel memoir? Well, it's something a little different for each person. Of course, it's a memory of an event. One of the things that we do have to have in a travel memoir is a sense of place. But it doesn't necessarily have to have a sense of time. It is a place you have been, that you have a memory of, that you would like to chronicle and let others know about. For me, it's a quick instant in time that I've captured in my memory I want to impart to you. So here's an example of what I wrote in Champagne Before Breakfast about what is a travel memoir to me.
I guess this book can be categorized as a travel memoir. I understand that beleaguered librarians, publishers, and bookstores need some organized idea of where in a genre a book falls. To me, a travel memoir is a series of written snapshots of a life trying very hard to be well-lived and occasionally succeeding. That success is largely due to interaction, no matter how fleeting, with strangers who inspire, tickle, or otherwise connect with me. This happens most when they and I are anonymous to each other. Like 5-minute stands, if you will. A moment in time when we, no matter our birth or background, can be honest because we need never see each other again.
Now, the second step is related. I want you to distinguish in your mind between a diary And a travel memoir, what's the difference? Well, a diary has a very definite sense of time. It's a day-to-day record or chronicle of what you did, something that happened by you or to you, where and when. It's for you to remember in the future of something that occurred and be able to piece together your past. A travel memoir may be something that already happened years, decades ago. It may be something that is happening quite this minute, and you can remember it in the next minute enough to write it down. It also does not have to have the accuracy of time or place, but it should have the accuracy of feeling. What did you feel during this period? And how would you like to relate it? And who was a part of it? Very often, a diary has only you in the story, but the best travel memoirs are about other people.
That means my memoirs are not just my stories, but there's two. The man so proud he had gone to Mecca whom I met while searching for a synagogue in Tashkent. The 11-year-old boy Nikki I adopted for an hour on Souvlaki Street in Athens. The woman in her burqa who switched toilet stalls with me on the outskirts of Borneo. Without them there is no tidbit to tell.
Here's how I explain that. The third thing that we want to do is we want to distinguish between a travel memoir and a guide or a travel story. And here again, we deal with accuracy and research. Any travel story, any travel guide should be accurate. If you're going to talk about a place, you're going to tell where that place is, how to get to it, the right name of the place, the correct spelling of the place, and everything that you would want to know if you were a tourist and you wanted to go somewhere. So whether you are writing a huge photos guide or whether you're writing a little blog, 7 great restaurants in Paris, you're going to be dead accurate. Travel memoirs are not necessarily accurate. Some of them even have a fair amount of fiction. And many of them have fiction that you think is accurate because your memory is faulty. No problem. One of the great things about travel memoirs is you are the protagonist. It's your memory. And no one in the world can say that your memory is inaccurate about the memory itself. It might be inaccurate about all the details and the facts, but it is your true memory.
Don't you dare rely on anything I write to take the same trip. I am writing from memory with a great distance in time and space between the event and its description. I make a general disclaimer. Except for the country and the general period of time, I could be entirely wrong about the exact location, the exact season, the precise colors, and all the adjectives I use to increase the verisimilitude of my stories. I remember with my heart and not my head. How do you remember?
Now, number 4 in our steps is for you to determine your purpose. And I would like you to sit back and think about that for a moment. There are many purposes for travel memoirs. One of them can be extremely serious. I have used travel memoirs for advocacy, to raise funds for things that I've seen, to expose inequities that I have seen, to make a point, tell a story about inequalities, poverty, issues I've seen all over the world. And I'll never forget those events that have so much affected me, and I have written them to affect you.
The story of the little boy in the Andes breaks my heart. Every time I am tempted to look away from what I can do to help, I think of him. I don't mind being an international interferer. Small acts of kindness are the only way I know to fight the enormity of the evil we still have in the world. I may be insignificant, but I am not helpless.
But another purpose of a travel memoir is simply to entertain, to have fun.
Besides, travel is fun. The most fun ever. Nothing beats a kiss near the Seine, white pasta on the Via Veneto, or a hot tub at the Ice Hotel in Givsvostok, Sweden. There's nothing wrong with bragging rights, and I admit you will find a lot in champagne before breakfast.
And of course, a third purpose of a travel memoir is so that other people in the future know who you are. As we age, one of the things that we talk about is telling our life story, leaving a legacy, letting our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren know who we are. Well, you can do that through your travel memoir. Life memoirs are very interesting, but travel memoirs are kind of easier to write because you are prompted by many types of things. I'll give you an example. We had a wonderful podcast with Marty McCabe, who asks people to take an object, something they purchased, and tell a story of it, almost like show and tell when we were in kindergarten. Well, very similar, you can do that with travel souvenirs. Why did you buy it? When did you acquire it? Why do you still have it? What is its meaning to you? It reveals an awful lot about yourself, and it's a wonderful purpose, this life legacy, life story, made easier through the travel memoir. For many years, I had a radio call-in show, almost about 20 years. I'm very used to hearing your questions and answering them. And if I can't do that, I have a battalion of experts who can. Do you have questions about travel, about volunteering, perhaps just about volunteering, even your next step in life after retirement? Well, if you have those questions, please ask Adrian. Very simple to do it. Go to fanlist.com/agelesstraveler. That's fanlist.com/agelesstraveler. You'll see it in the show notes. And ask me by text, by voicemail. It's free. We will get back to you. And if we get enough questions, we'll start to live stream and you'll be able to ask me on the air. fanlist.com/agelesstraveler. Now, I just mentioned age, and I have had a lot of people say to me, I am too old to write anything, particularly a travel memoir. I hardly remember anything anymore. Well, let me tell you that you are never, ever too old. One of the beauties of travel and lifelong travel, and of course the motto of the Ageless Traveler is never stop traveling, and I mean never, is that we experience new things. There's a wonderful word, I don't think it's used enough. The word is neoteny. It's like being like a puppy. It's puppy-like. Puppies run. They're always excited about things. You don't even know why they're excited. To give them a little ball and they're so happy. That is being neotenous. Well, that's what travel can do for you. It wakes you up. It makes you alive. It makes you younger. But of course, what you might remember when you're young and you travel, the experience of seeing Paris for the first time or Big Ben in London for the first time, or even just leaving your home and going to a nearby big city for the first time, could be a memory of a younger person. But for us, it's a little bit more complex. Here's what I have to say about that in Champagne Before Breakfast.
I try hard to craft my days as a series of firsts different from the firsts of my youth, graduations, births, marriages, jobs. The first sighting of the Eiffel Tower or the Trevi Fountain or Stonehenge, these are the firsts of my traveling youth. The firsts of my old age are rather more intimate. Collaboration with the universe that seems to surprise both, a new friend, a new love, 100-mile walk on the Camino the Way, body surfing in Baja, kayaking Bay Vietnam, traveling alone to a place that might be dangerous, eating alone in a trendy restaurant, and asking for a table in the center of everything. These little firsts convince me that change is possible no matter what, no matter when. For me, it is also comforting to know that change can happen no matter where.
Now, if you've been listening to this so far, you're noticing something, and that is the folks reading my words have different genders. I've used men and women and people with different kinds of voices. Why did I do that? Why didn't I read my own? Well, I have to tell you that one of the most important things that you can do when you write is to share it with others and ask them to read your work out loud to you. Now, we are always talking about the author that reads their own work. In fact, maybe you've been to a library or a bookstore to enjoy an evening with an author. And they take their book and they very, very prominently looking, open it up, and they read it to you. In fact, Mark Twain and Dickens made fortunes just going from place to place reading their own work. But if you would like to write a travel memoir, You want to hear it in your ear, the way others read it to themselves. There's no way to do that unless you ask them to read it to you. I'm very, very much in favor of you sharing, regardless of your purpose, your travel memoir. Now, many of you are interested in writing a travel memoir to actually have it published. And we're doing something wonderful here at the Ageless Traveler. If you've written a travel memoir, submit it. In fact, this week, we have in our blog a submission by Phyllis Hockman of a travel story that she wrote about a cruise that you could definitely find on Cruises It, by the way, a fabulous Snake River cruise, in the footsteps of Lewis and Clark expedition. We're very much open to reading your travel memoirs and publishing a few of them. So make sure that when you do write, you go to fanlist.com. You'll see that right in the show notes, fanlist.com/agelesstraveler, and give us a little synopsis of your travel memoir. We will be very happy to take a look at it. Once you know your purpose, you can go on to the next decision you have to make, which is, what's your style? The beauty of a travel memoir is it could be in many, many styles. It could read like fiction. It's your memory. It could read like fact.
I have tried and failed to make my stories longer, to give them a plot, a purpose, a rhyme or reason, but the stories won't let me. Tell it like it was they shout, short and enchantingly sweet. Glimpsing another's life for an instant adds years to yours, at least I feel so. One human gesture can quietly set worlds in motion. One failure to connect can kill worlds before they are ever born. That means my memoirs are not just my stories, but theirs too.
Now, in our next step, we have what is probably the hardest of all, and that is sit down and write. When I wrote my first book, which was in 1980, it was called Money Think, I had an editor, and I said to the, I'm not a writer. I'm a lawyer. What makes a writer, I asked her, and she gave me such a succinct answer. I remember it to this day. She said, writers write. People who are not writers don't write. That's the only difference. That doesn't make you a genius writer, a best-selling writer, or even a published writer. But if you write, you are a writer. And if you don't, you can have all the genius in your mind, all the great travel memories in the world. You can articulate it in your head 100 times, but you are not a writer. Writers write. And as you do that, the idea of your topics becomes easier and easier. I went to Australia 3 times now, and I have many, many memories. But there's one imparting to you now. And you would look at it and say, gee, it's not exactly a topic where to go in Australia. There are so many places. You've been there so often. No, it's about a dingo.
The dingo was lopping around in little circles chained to his big tree, barking and smiling. I thought he was smiling at me. Little did I realize that he was eyeing my neck scarf like a bull attracted to a matador's cape. I bent. He bit. Not me, but the dangling end of my scarf. I must compliment myself for thinking of Isadora Duncan in the seconds before my imminent demise. She choked to death when her long flowing scarf caught in the wheels of a car. She and the driver made a fatal madcap motor trip through the glorious countryside. It was a romantic way to die for a famous dancer and artist. For a travel writer, it was ridiculous.
And finally, the last, and I think the most important step, and that is share your writing. Do you say, well, I don't even want this published, Adrian. I have no interest in that. This is just for myself. If it's just for yourself, then you're writing a diary. And we're back to a former step here. Bring it out into the world, whether it is simply as a legacy for your children and your grandchildren, whether it has some facts in it so that other people can go to those same places and become enticed to do so, whether your purpose is to activate people to take steps for a better world or to make change, or whether you're there, as I am, to empower people so that they never stop traveling. It won't work if you don't share. And this is the Ageless Traveler, and we share in many ways. One of them is we are going on safari. I'll be in Africa for several weeks this summer, and Colette Tours has very generously created a wonderful tour that starts in Nairobi, goes to Tanzania. Of course, you will see Kilimanjaro. It's just an incredible trip. It covers the wonderful safaris of Kenya. There are 16 game drives here. Please don't miss this. This is one of your last chances. We'll only have 1 or 2 more weeks to sign up for this. You will see it on our website, agelesstraveler.com. You will also see it in our newsletter, Travel Tuesday. So please go on Ageless Traveler and subscribe free for Travel Tuesday and join our Facebook salon so that you can meet new people, share your experiences. And of course, if you're interested in a cruise or river cruise or an ocean cruise, please support us by going to Cruises It. It's a wonderful discount, high level, every level of cruising and river cruising, and fit for every single budget. How do you find Cruises It? Well, you'll find it on our show notes, but you'll also find it in the discount travel section of our website, Ageless Traveler, and never stop traveling.